A shy girl undergoes hemorrhoid surgery. Shockingly, her doctor is a young millionaire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Lily had never imagined that her life would shift so dramatically on a random Tuesday morning. But fate has a strange way of working when people are at their most vulnerable. She was sitting in a cold hospital room, dressed in a thin pale gown, her fingers trembling slightly as she tried to gather her composure. The fluorescent lights above hummed softly, casting a sterile glow across the room that only intensified her anxiety. She was here for a medical issue she had tried to ignore for months, something embarrassing, something she wished she could have dealt with quietly and privately. But the increasing discomfort left her no choice. She kept her head down, hoping no one would see the fear in her eyes. The door clicked open, and she braced herself, expecting an older doctor, someone distant, someone clinical. Instead, a tall man stepped inside, wearing navy scrubs, confident posture, and a calm expression that seemed to soften the entire room. He looked far too young to be a surgeon, with sharp masculine features, dark hair, and eyes that held a steady warmth. "Lily," he asked gently, checking the chart in his hand before offering her a reassuring smile. "I am Dr. Ethan. I will be taking care of you today." His tone was steady, professional, yet unexpectedly kind. She tried to respond, but her voice caught in her throat. He noticed. "Do not worry," he continued, pulling up a stool and sitting close enough for her to feel a sense of safety she did not expect. "I know this is uncomfortable, but you are not alone, and I am here to help you through it." Something about the way he spoke made her inhale slowly, the panic in her chest loosening just a little. He explained the procedure step by step, not rushing, making sure she understood everything. His voice was calm, grounding, like a steady hand on a stormy sea. Lily nodded, trying to stay composed, but the embarrassment lingered. "I know it feels awkward," he said quietly, his voice lowering with empathy. "But please remember this is a normal medical condition. You are safe here." The sincerity in his eyes startled her. Doctors were supposed to be detached, mechanical even, but he carried a softness that did not fit the cold walls of the hospital. She finally managed to whisper, "Thank you." Dr. Ethan gave her a small smile. "That is what I am here for." As he prepared the instruments, she watched him with growing curiosity. He moved with precision, confidence, and a calm grace that made her forget, even for a moment, how frightened she had been. When the procedure began, Lily gripped the edges of the table, her breath shaky, but Ethan guided her through every step. His voice never faltered. "You are doing great," he murmured, adjusting the equipment. "Just breathe. I am right here." The reassurance worked more than she expected. By the time the procedure ended, Lily felt a surprising wave of relief, not just physically, but emotionally. "You did amazing," he said, helping her sit up. "Most patients tense up far more. I am proud of you for staying calm." No one had said something like that to her in a long time. Not with that level of sincerity. As she changed back into her clothes afterward, she caught her reflection in the mirror. She looked like herself, yet something had shifted. A strange warmth lingered in her chest when she thought of him. Dr. Ethan, the young surgeon who had shown her a level of kindness she never expected to receive inside a cold hospital room. When she stepped back out, he was waiting with a printed summary and a gentle smile. "Take care of yourself, Lily," he said. "If you need anything, or have any concerns, just reach out. I mean it." She nodded, but inside her mind, a new thought took root. Why did someone like him, capable, confident, clearly successful, speak to her with such genuine concern? She did not know it then, but this moment, this single unexpected meeting, was about to change her entire life. And everything would begin with the kindness of a young doctor whose true identity she had yet to discover. When Lily walked out of the hospital that afternoon, the cool air hit her face like a quiet reminder that the world was still moving. Even though she felt strangely suspended between fear, relief, and something she could not quite name. She kept replaying the moment when Dr. Ethan looked into her eyes and told her she was safe. No one had spoken to her like that in a long time. No one had made her feel seen. She clutched the small discharge folder against her chest as she stepped onto the sidewalk, her footsteps slow and unsteady. It was not the procedure that rattled her anymore. It was him, the young doctor with steady hands and a voice soft enough to calm the panic she tried so hard to hide. She shook her head, trying to clear her mind. People like him did not exist in her world. She lived paycheck to paycheck, sharing a cramped apartment with peeling paint and a heater that rattled louder every night. He lived in a world of polished floors, steady income, and confidence carved into every movement. She tried to push the thought away. Focus, she whispered to herself as she boarded the bus. She needed to get home, rest, and return to work tomorrow. Life did not pause just because hers had shifted a little. The bus ride home felt longer than usual, and by the time she reached her apartment, the sun had dipped below the buildings, leaving the hallway dimly lit. She opened the door quietly, not wanting to disturb her roommate, who was probably studying or working a late shift. Lily leaned against the door, letting out a long breath. She changed into comfortable clothes and stood in front of the small mirror above the sink. Her reflection looked back at her, tired eyes, nervous smile, but something else too, a spark she had not seen before. Get it together, she murmured, splashing water on her face. The next few days passed quietly. Her discomfort eased, just as Dr. Ethan had promised, and she threw herself into her routine at the cafe. But no matter how many coffees she poured or tables she cleaned, his voice lingered in her mind. His calm, steady reassurance. His gentle professionalism. The warmth behind his eyes. She told herself it was silly. He was just doing his job. But sometimes, late at night, when the world outside her window fell silent, she wondered if he had spoken to all patients like that, or if she had imagined the way his expression softened when she finally smiled back at him. On the fourth morning, the cafe was busier than usual. She tied her apron tightly, grabbed her notepad, and rushed from table to table. When she finally stepped behind the counter to take a breath, the bell above the door rang. "Good morning," a familiar voice said. Lily froze. Her heart stuttered. She turned slowly, afraid she was imagining things. But no, there he was. Dr. Ethan, standing in the cafe, wearing a gray button-down shirt and dark slacks instead of scrubs, looking effortlessly polished, his presence somehow brighter than the sunlight spilling through the windows. "Hi, Lily," he said warmly, giving her the same reassuring smile she remembered all too clearly. She blinked, stunned. "Dr. Ethan? What are you? How?" He lifted a takeout cup from the counter beside him. "I was in the neighborhood. Thought I would grab a coffee before heading in. And I realized this was your cafe." Her cheeks warmed. She wished she had worn something nicer, or that her hair was not tied back in a rushed ponytail. "Right?" she said, trying to sound calm. "Well, welcome. What can I get you?" His smile grew, soft but intentional. "Whatever you recommend." She nodded, turning toward the machine, but her hands were trembling. She took a slow breath, focusing on the motions she knew by heart. When she handed him the cup, their fingers brushed briefly, sending a tiny spark up her arm. "Thank you," he said. "And how are you feeling? Any discomfort?" She shook her head. "No, I feel much better. Thank you." "I am glad," he said quietly. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. The cafe noise faded into the background. Then he cleared his throat gently. "If you ever have questions, or if something does not feel right, you can call the clinic and leave a message for me. I will make sure it gets to me." Lily nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Okay." He hesitated as if wanting to say more, then gave her a small nod and headed toward the door. Just before he stepped outside, he looked back at her. "Have a good day, Lily." She stood frozen long after he left, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. She had no idea why he came. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe he was just being kind. But as she returned to work, one thought pulsed quietly inside her chest. What if this was not the last time their paths would cross? For the next several days, Lily tried her best to settle back into her routine, but something had undeniably shifted inside her since the moment Dr. Ethan walked into the cafe. Every time she wiped down a table or filled a cup, her mind drifted back to the way he said her name, the warmth in his voice, and the quiet sincerity behind his questions. She told herself not to read into it, not to hope for anything beyond simple kindness, because people like him did not just walk into the lives of people like her. But no matter how many times she reminded herself, The memory tugged at her, refusing to fade. On Friday afternoon, after the lunch rush slowed down, Lily stepped outside to catch a breath of fresh air. The alley behind the cafe was quiet except for the distant hum of traffic. She leaned against the brick wall, letting the breeze cool her skin after hours of nonstop work. As she closed her eyes for a moment, she heard footsteps approaching. When she opened them, her heart skipped. Dr. Ethan was standing a few feet away, holding a small paper bag from the bakery next door. He looked surprised to see her, but pleasantly so. "Hi, Lily," he said, walking closer with that same gentle smile that had been replaying in her mind all week. "I was hoping to drop this off for you." She blinked. "For me?" He nodded, holding out the bag. "You looked pretty busy the other day. I thought you might appreciate something sweet on your break." She hesitated before taking it, her fingers brushing his once again. "Thank you," she said softly. "You did not have to do that." "I know," he replied, still smiling. "But I wanted to." The words hung between them, stirring something warm and unfamiliar in her chest. He leaned against the wall beside her, maintaining a comfortable distance. "How has your week been?" he asked. Lily let out a small breath. "Busy, but good." "And how about you?" she asked quickly, worried she sounded awkward. "Busy too," he said with a light chuckle. "But I did not mind taking a detour to come here." Lily's cheeks warmed again. She looked down at the bag in her hands, trying to gather her thoughts. "Do you come here often?" she asked. "Not really," he admitted, turning slightly to face her. "This neighborhood is out of the way for me. But after the other day, I figured it would not hurt to stop by." Her heartbeat thudded softly in her ears. She wanted to understand what he meant, but she was too afraid to ask. Instead, she nodded slowly. "Well, it is nice seeing you again." "It is nice seeing you too," he replied, his voice softer this time. They stood quietly for a moment, the air between them easing into a gentle calm. Lily could not explain why, but she felt safe with him, just like she had in the hospital room. It was as if he carried warmth wherever he went. Eventually, he checked his watch and sighed. "I should head back. I have afternoon rounds." "Of course," she said quickly. "I would not want to keep you." "You are not keeping me," he said, looking at her with a sincerity that made her breath catch. "I enjoyed this." She watched him take a few steps toward the sidewalk before he paused and turned back. "By the way," he added, "if you are free on Sunday, there is a local art fair downtown. I think you would like it. And if you want company, I would be happy to go with you." Lily stared at him, wide-eyed. "You want to go with me?" "Only if you want to," he answered softly. She could barely process the moment. No one had invited her to anything in months, let alone someone like him. After a long breath, she nodded. "Yes, I would like that." His smile widened, warm and genuine. "Great. I will text you the details." "But I do not think you have my number," she said shyly. He chuckled. "I was hoping you would say that." She scribbled her number on a small order pad and handed it to him. Their fingers brushed again, that same subtle spark flickering between them. "I will message you," he promised. "Have a good rest of your shift, Lily." As he walked away, Lily felt her entire world tilt slightly, like gravity had shifted in his direction. She clutched the bakery bag to her chest, trying to calm her racing heart. Something real was happening, something she had not dared to hope for. And as she returned inside the cafe with a faint, uncontainable smile, she knew deep down that Sunday might be the beginning of something she had never imagined possible. Sunday arrived faster than Lily expected, and by the time the afternoon sun stretched across the sky, she found herself standing in front of the downtown art fair, her palms damp with nervous excitement. She had tried on 3 different outfits that morning before settling on a simple white blouse and light denim jeans, something clean but not too bold, something that felt like her. She kept wondering if Dr. Ethan would see her differently outside the hospital and the cafe, and every time the thought crossed her mind, her stomach fluttered with anxious energy. Just as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, she heard footsteps approaching. "Lily," a warm voice called. She turned, and there he was, walking toward her with that familiar confidence and quiet charm. He wore a casual navy shirt and dark jeans, a simple look that somehow made him even more striking. His smile reached his eyes as he stopped in front of her. "I am glad you came," he said softly. "I was not sure if you would change your mind." She shook her head. "I almost did," she admitted shyly, "but not because I did not want to be here. I just got nervous." His smile softened. "I get that. but I am really happy you are here. They began walking through the fair, weaving between colorful booths, music stands, and artists showcasing their work. Lily's eyes lit up as she took in the displays of paintings, pottery, and handmade crafts. For a moment, she forgot about her nerves and allowed herself to enjoy the vibrant atmosphere. You really like this, do you not? Ethan said as he watched her carefully study a canvas filled with swirling shades of blue and gold. Lily nodded. I used to paint a lot, she said quietly. But life got in the way, I guess. He tilted his head slightly. What happened? She hesitated. I just stopped believing I was good enough. When you are struggling to pay rent and trying to keep up with everything, art starts to feel like a luxury you cannot afford. Ethan listened intently, not interrupting, his eyes gentle. That does not mean it stopped being a part of you, he said. Sometimes life buries the things we love, but that does not mean they disappear. His words hit deeper than she expected, stirring something she had pushed away for years. They continued walking, the breeze carrying the scent of fresh popcorn and cinnamon from nearby food stalls. Every now and then, someone recognized Ethan, offering a polite nod or greeting, and Lily quickly realized he was more well-known than she thought. It made her heart sink a little. Do people always recognize you? She asked quietly as they stepped aside to let a group pass. Ethan chuckled. Sometimes. It depends on where I am. People get curious when a doctor shows up outside the hospital. She forced a small smile, but something unsettled her. He noticed. Lily, he said gently. Are you all right? She shrugged, trying to brush it off. It just made me realize how different our lives are. Ethan slowed his pace, turning slightly so he could see her better. Different does not mean incompatible, he said softly. Do you feel uncomfortable being here with me? She shook her head quickly. No, not at all. I just do not want to embarrass you. His brows tightened. You could never embarrass me, he said firmly. I asked you to come because I enjoy spending time with you. The rest does not matter. She swallowed hard, not used to someone defending her so naturally. They walked further into the fair, and as the crowds thickened, Ethan gently placed his hand on the small of her back to guide her through. The touch was warm, steady, and sent a quiet shiver up her spine. They eventually reached a quieter corner where a local musician played soft guitar. There was a bench nearby, and Ethan gestured toward it. Sit with me for a minute? Lily nodded, and they sat, the music filling the air around them. After a moment, Ethan spoke again, his voice lower now. Can I tell you something? She turned toward him. Of course. He took a slow breath. I did not come to the cafe last week just for coffee, and I did not come to see you in the alley by accident. I wanted to see you. Again, I wanted to know you outside of that hospital room. Her breath caught. Why? He held her gaze, his expression open and sincere. Because you are different, Lily. Not in a dramatic way. Just real. Genuine. You look people in the eyes like you actually see them. And when you smile, it feels like something you had to fight for. I noticed things like that. Lily's chest tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not with such raw honesty. She lowered her gaze to steady herself, but he gently reached out and touched her hand, his voice barely above a whisper. I do not want to push you or overwhelm you. I just wanted you to know why I am here. The moment stretched between them, warm and alive, as if the entire fair had faded into the background. Lily finally looked up, her voice soft but certain. I am glad you told me. Ethan exhaled slowly, a subtle smile lifting the corner of his lips. The music swelled around them, and Lily realized that something inside her was shifting again, slowly, quietly, but unmistakably. She was no longer afraid of what this could become. Over the next week, Lily found herself replaying every moment from the art fair. From the way Ethan looked at her when she talked about her dreams to the gentle way he held her hand on the bench as the music echoed around them. Something had shifted between them that day, something subtle but undeniable, and she felt it every time her phone buzzed with a new message from him. He checked in on her daily, never intrusive, always thoughtful. Sometimes it was a simple, "How was your shift?" and other times it was a picture of something that reminded him of a conversation they had shared. Each message made her heart flutter in a way she could not quite hide anymore. But as the days passed, her excitement was threaded with a quiet fear. She knew he came from a different world, one filled with success, security, and confidence. And she was still just trying to stay afloat. One evening, after closing the cafe, She sat on a bench outside waiting for her bus. The streetlights flickered overhead as she hugged her jacket tighter to stay warm. Suddenly, a familiar car pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down, and Ethan leaned toward the passenger side. "Lily," he called softly. She blinked in surprise. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" He smiled sheepishly. "I was finishing my shift at the hospital, and I remembered you usually catch the bus around this time." She raised an eyebrow. "You remembered?" "Of course," he said gently. "And I figured, maybe you would let me give you a ride home? Only if you are comfortable with it." She hesitated, glancing at the empty street. She knew she should not get too comfortable relying on someone, but something about his presence felt steady, like a hand reaching out when the world felt too heavy. She nodded quietly. "Okay." She slipped into the passenger seat, the warmth of the car wrapping around her immediately. Ethan pulled into traffic, glancing at her every few seconds, as if making sure she was all right. "How was work?" he asked. Lily chuckled softly. "Busy. People drink a surprising amount of coffee on weekdays." "And how are you holding up?" She looked out the window. "Better than before," she admitted. "I think I am starting to breathe again." He nodded, keeping his eyes on the road. "I like hearing that." They drove in comfortable silence for a moment before Ethan spoke again, his tone shifting slightly. "Lily, I want to make sure I am not confusing you or making things harder. I know our worlds look different from the outside." She tensed slightly, her fingers brushing along the seam of her jeans. "They do," she admitted quietly. "Sometimes I feel like I am not enough." Ethan slowed the car as they approached a red light, turning to look at her fully this time. His voice was warm but firm. "Lily, you are more than enough. Everything about you, your determination, your honesty, the way you care so deeply even when life has been unkind. Those are things people spend their whole lives searching for. I see value in you that you do not see in yourself." Her throat tightened. She did not know what to say, so she said nothing. When they reached her apartment building, she unbuckled slowly, not wanting the moment to end. "Thank you for the ride," she whispered. "And for saying that." Ethan leaned forward slightly. "I meant every word." Before she could reply, he gently reached for her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles in. A soft, deliberate motion. The gesture sent a warm shiver through her. "Lily," he said quietly, "I do not want you to ever feel small next to me. I am here because I choose to be, not because of who you are not, but because of who you are." The words melted her uncertainty just enough for her to finally meet his gaze. "I do not know where this is going," she confessed, her voice trembling with honesty. "But I want to find out." A slow, relieved smile spread across his face. "Then we will find out together." He gave her hand one last squeeze before letting go, and Lily stepped out of the car with her heart racing in a way that felt both terrifying and beautiful. She watched him drive away before heading up the stairs to her apartment, each step feeling lighter than the last. For the first time in years, she let herself imagine the possibility of a future where she did not have to walk alone. She did not know what tomorrow would bring, but as she closed her door behind her, she whispered to herself, "Maybe this is the beginning." And somewhere across the city, Ethan was smiling too, thinking the exact same thing. In the days that followed, something gentle and unspoken grew between Lily and Ethan, something that neither of them tried to define too quickly, but both of them felt every time their phones lit up with a message from the other. Their conversations became longer, warmer, more honest. Sometimes Ethan texted her during his lunch break, telling her about a funny moment at the hospital, and sometimes Lily sent him pictures of little sketches she worked on between shifts at the cafe. Even the smallest interaction left her with a quiet flutter in her chest, a feeling she had not allowed herself to feel in years. Yet with every step forward, Lily felt a mix of excitement and fear. It was not that she doubted Ethan's sincerity. If anything, he had shown her more patience and kindness than anyone before him. But she doubted herself, her worthiness, her place in a world that felt so much larger than the one she was used to. One evening, after finishing her shift, she found Ethan waiting outside again, leaning casually against his car with his arms crossed and a soft smile on his face. The warm glow of the streetlights cast a soft halo around him. "I hope you do not mind," he said as she walked toward him. "But I thought we could get dinner. Nothing fancy, just good food and quiet conversation." A flutter of nervous joy filled her chest. "I would like that," she said softly. They drove to a small restaurant tucked away on a quiet street, a place filled with warm lighting, dark wood tables, and the low murmur of evening conversations. It felt safe and intimate, far from the noise of downtown. When they sat down, Ethan studied her for a moment, his gaze gentle but observant. "You seem a little distracted," he said. "Are you all right?" Lily hesitated, twisting a piece of her napkin between her fingers. "I guess I just do not want to mess things up," she admitted. "I am not used to this." "You. Us." Ethan leaned forward slightly, his eyes softening. "Lily, you are not messing anything up. We are just getting to know each other. There is no pressure, no expectations. I want to be here with you. That is all." She felt her shoulders slowly relax as she absorbed his words. "Sometimes I worry that I will say or do the wrong thing," she said quietly, "or that someday you will realize I am not who you think I am." Ethan took a slow breath, his voice deep and sincere as he replied, "Lily, I do not want perfection. I want honesty. I want someone who feels deeply, someone who cares even when it is hard. That has always been you. Why would I want anything different?" Her chest tightened with emotion. The dishes arrived, their plates filled with warm, comforting food, and the conversation drifted to lighter topics. They laughed more than she expected, their connection unfolding naturally in a way that felt effortless. After dinner, they walked along the sidewalk in the cool evening air. The street was quiet, lined with dim lights and the occasional sound of distant traffic. Ethan walked close enough that their arms brushed every few steps. "Can I ask you something?" he said softly. "Of course," Lily replied. He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Do you ever think about where you want your life to go? What you want to build, not just survive?" Lily looked down at her feet, her voice barely above a whisper. "I do. But dreams feel dangerous. Like if I get too close to them, I will lose everything when they fall apart." Ethan slowed, turning to face her. "Dreams are not dangerous, Lily. They are necessary. You deserve to want more. You deserve to have more." She swallowed hard, emotions rising. "What if I try and fail?" He reached out, gently brushing his fingers along her hand until their palms met. "Then you get up, and you try again," he said softly. "And I will be right there cheering you on." The touch sent warmth rushing through her body. Her fingers curled into his slowly, almost shyly, but deliberately. They stopped beneath a dim streetlight, the world around them quiet and still. "Ethan," she whispered, her heart pounding. "I am scared." "I know," he murmured, stepping just a little closer. "But you do not have to be scared alone." She met his eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she felt herself letting something go. The fear, the doubt, the belief that she did not deserve anything more than survival. In that moment, under the soft light, their hands intertwined, something shifted between them. Deeper, stronger, unmistakable. Ethan did not kiss her, not yet. Instead, he lifted her hand and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles, a gesture so tender it stole her breath. "We will take this one step at a time," he said softly. "Together." That single word wrapped around her like a promise, settling into her heart. And as they stood there, the night quiet around them, Lily realized she was no longer standing on the edge of something frightening, but the beginning of something she finally wanted to believe in. In the days that followed that quiet moment beneath the streetlight, Lily found herself thinking about Ethan more than she ever admitted out loud. His words replayed in her mind, soft but steady, like a hand she could hold even when he was not physically there. "You do not have to be scared alone." She had never heard anything like that before, not directed at her, not said with such certainty. And slowly, she felt pieces of her heart unlocking, as if his kindness were gently dissolving walls she had spent years building. Their communication grew more frequent as the week moved on. Some nights Ethan called her after finishing his late hospital rounds, his voice tired but warm as he asked about her day. Other times, she sent him small sketches she drew during quiet moments at the cafe, and he always responded with genuine admiration, not the empty compliments she used to hate hearing. But even as their bond continued to strengthen, Lily still felt hints of fear curling around the edges of her hope. She kept waiting for something to go wrong, for him to see her flaws and pull away, for the universe to remind her that dreams like this were not meant for people like her. She tried to keep those thoughts hidden, but Ethan had a way of reading her far too easily. On a Thursday evening, after her shift ended, he texted her, Are you free tonight? I would love to see you. Lily hesitated, staring at the message. She almost typed an excuse, almost convinced herself she should slow things down. But something in her chest pushed her forward. Yes, she replied. I am free. 20 minutes later, she found herself sitting beside him in his car again, the soft hum of the engine filling the silence. But this time, Ethan did not start driving. He turned toward her, studying her expression with concern. You seem distant, he said gently. Did something happen? Lily looked down at her hands, her fingers twisting together. Nothing happened. Sometimes I worry I am getting in too deep. Ethan stayed quiet for a moment, giving her space to speak. Everything feels so new, she continued. And it scares me. I do not want to lose myself or make a fool of myself. I do not want to hope for something that might not be real. Ethan exhaled slowly, his voice soft but firm. Lily, everything you are feeling is valid. But what we have is real. I would not be here if it was not. She blinked, unsure. How do you know? Because I feel it, he said simply. And I think you do too. That is why you are scared, and that is okay. She felt her throat tighten. I do not want to disappoint you. You could not disappoint me, Ethan said, reaching out to gently touch her hand. Your fear does not scare me. Your honesty does not scare me. I would rather have the real you than some perfect version. You are trying to pretend to be. She swallowed hard, feeling tears prick at her eyes. No one had ever said anything like that to her, not with that level of sincerity. Ethan continued softly. You have spent so much of your life surviving. You do not need to apologize for learning how to live. Lily's breath caught, and for a moment, the car was silent except for the rhythm of their breaths. Then Ethan squeezed her hand gently. Do you want to go somewhere peaceful? She nodded. He drove them to the old pier just outside town, a place where the night sky stretched endlessly above them and the water shimmered with reflections of the moon. They sat on the edge, their feet dangling above the quiet waves. For a while, neither of them spoke. The night was cool, the breeze gentle, and Lily felt her anxiety slowly melt away in the presence of someone who did not expect anything from her except honesty. After a long pause, Ethan broke the silence. Lily, he said softly, I want you to know something. I am not going anywhere. I do not care how long it takes for you to feel safe or confident. I am here because I want to be with you, not because I expect you to be someone else. She turned her face toward him, her heart aching in the most beautiful way. Why me? She whispered. He met her gaze without hesitation. Because you make the world softer, he said quietly. Because you have strength you do not even see. Because every time you talk about your dreams, your whole face lights up. Because you try, even when life makes it hard. And because being with you feels like something I do not want to lose. Lily's breath trembled as she let his words seep into her. She had never felt so seen, so understood, so cherished. Slowly, she reached for his hand this time, her fingers intertwining with his in a quiet but deliberate gesture. Ethan smiled, a relieved, tender smile that warmed her from the inside out. They sat like that for a long time, letting the night wrap around them like a blanket, letting their hearts settle into the quiet truth growing between them. And for the first time, Lily did not pull away from the possibility of happiness. She leaned into it. The following week unfolded with a strange mixture of calm and intensity, the kind that happens when two people begin to move toward each other without hesitation, yet still carry pieces of fear inside them. After that night on the pier, something between Lily and Ethan had settled into place, not officially defined, but unmistakably real. Lily woke up each morning feeling both lighter and more unsteady, as if she were balancing on the edge of something beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Ethan continued to check in on her, not out of obligation, but out of genuine care. He asked about her day, about her art, about the little things most people overlooked. She found herself wanting to tell him everything, even the parts of her life she usually kept hidden. But as her feelings deepened, so did her doubts. It was not Ethan she did not trust. It was the fear that her world would collide with his in a way that exposed every flaw she had spent years trying to hide. That fear came crashing down during a Saturday morning rush at the cafe. Lily was delivering drinks when a group of customers sitting near the window started talking loudly. They wore sleek clothes and expensive watches, their voices carrying a tone she recognized too well, privilege without kindness. Did you hear Dr. Cohen's nephew is some hotshot young surgeon? One of them said. makes a ridiculous salary, and apparently comes from old money too. Lily froze mid-step. Which nephew? Another asked. Ethan, the first said casually. Ethan Turner. His family basically owns half of Crestmont Ridge, and he is set to take over the foundation someday. The guy is practically untouchable. Lily's heart sank. Untouchable. Old money. Crestmont Ridge. A world she had never stepped foot in. A world that did not include people like her. She tried to steady the tray in her hands, but her fingers trembled. The voices continued, oblivious to her panic. Imagine dating someone like him. You would never have to worry about bills again. Oh please, another laugh. Guys like that do not date regular girls. They date polished, educated women. The kind their families approve of. A sharp pain shot through Lily's chest. She wanted to pretend she had not heard any of it, but the words burrowed under her skin like splinters. She forced herself to breathe, to finish her shift, to smile at customers even as her world tilted beneath her feet. When she finally stepped outside for her break, her hands were still shaking. She tried to calm herself, but the words repeated in her mind. Untouchable. Someone like him does not date someone like you. Her phone buzzed. Ethan. Thinking of you. His message read. Hope your morning is going okay. Lily stared at the screen, her heart twisting painfully. She wanted to reply. She wanted to feel that warmth again. But suddenly, she felt small, insignificant, and painfully replaceable. She did not reply. Hours passed. When her shift ended, she stepped outside to head home, hoping the cold air would clear her thoughts. Instead, it only sharpened them. Ethan's world was not just different, it was unreachable. She would always feel like she was climbing a ladder with broken rungs. As she rounded the corner, she saw Ethan leaning against his car again, hands in his pockets, his posture relaxed but his eyes searching the street until they found her. Relief washed across his face. Lily, he said gently, walking toward her. I was worried. You did not respond to my messages. She lowered her gaze. I was busy. He paused, sensing something was wrong instantly. Did something happen? She shook her head, but her voice wavered. I think I need some space. Ethan blinked, visibly thrown. Space? From what? She swallowed hard, avoiding his eyes. From this. From us. I think I got ahead of myself. His voice softened with concern. Lily, talk to me. Do not shut me out. She shook her head again. Ethan, you are too much for me. You deserve someone who fits into your world. Someone who is not constantly trying to catch up. He stepped closer, his voice firm but warm. Lily, look at me. When she finally did, she saw worry, not disappointment. Where is this coming from? She hesitated, then whispered. I heard people talking today. About your family. Your life. You are on another level. I am just trying to pay rent. Ethan let out a slow breath, understanding dawning in his eyes. Lily, I do not care about any of that. But everyone else will, she whispered. Your world will. Your family will. He reached for her hand, gently but with purpose. Lily, I choose you. Not the version of you that you think you need to become, just you. And I will keep choosing you, no matter what anyone else thinks. Tears stung her eyes. You cannot promise that. Watch me, he said softly. The wind brushed between them as they stood on the sidewalk, their fears and hopes colliding in the quiet evening air. Lily exhaled shakily, her resolve cracking under the weight of his sincerity. She wanted to walk away. She wanted to protect herself. But when Ethan's thumb brushed over the back of her hand, grounding her in a way nothing else could, she felt her defenses crumble. Please, he whispered, do not push me away because you are scared. Let me be here. And for the first time that day, Lily let herself breathe again. For a long moment, Lily stood frozen on the sidewalk, her breath unsteady as Ethan held her hand with a quiet steadiness that cut through the chaos in her mind. She had spent years believing that people like him lived in a place she could only admire from afar, a world built on foundations she did not have and expectations she could never meet. But in that moment, as the streetlight cast a soft glow over them, Ethan did not look like someone from another world. He looked like someone fighting to stay in hers. Lily, he said softly, you do not have to decide everything right now. Just talk to me. Let me understand what you are feeling instead of losing you to a fear that is not your fault. She felt her lips tremble. I felt stupid, she whispered. I heard those people talking about your family, about your life, and suddenly it made sense. You are extraordinary. and I am just trying not to drown every month. How could I ever fit beside you? Ethan's expression shifted, not with frustration, but with the deepest sincerity she had ever seen. Lily, you keep measuring your worth with numbers and labels that mean nothing to me. What matters to me is your strength, your compassion, your honesty. Those are things money cannot buy and privilege cannot fake. She looked away, unable to hold his gaze for long. But your world is going to judge me. They are going to judge us. Ethan exhaled slowly, stepping closer until his voice was a low warmth in the space between them. Then let them judge. Their opinions do not build my life, and they do not choose who I care about. I do. The firmness in his voice softened something inside her, something that had been tightly wounded for far too long. Lily, he continued gently, I want you to come with me somewhere. Just trust me for a moment. Before she could respond, he guided her toward his car, opening the passenger door with a nod of reassurance. Her fear whispered at her, but her heart pushed her forward. She stepped inside. They drove through quiet streets until Ethan pulled up to a building she did not recognize. Warm light glowing from the windows and soft music drifting out when he opened the door. Where are we? Lily asked cautiously. Ethan offered her a small smile. My home. Her heart skipped. I do not know if. Come inside, he said softly. Let me show you something. She hesitated but followed him. The interior surprised her. It was not the sterile, polished mansion she had imagined. It was warm, filled with books, plants, soft colors, and framed sketches on the walls, sketches of anatomy, abstract art, landscapes. You live here? She asked quietly. Yes, he said, watching her reaction. And I love it. Because it feels like me. Not what people expect of me. He moved toward a shelf and pulled out a small sketchbook. This, he said, handing it to her gently, is mine. She opened it and felt her breath catch. Inside were pages of charcoal sketches, faces, hands, scenes from life. Some messy, some precise. All deeply human. You draw? She whispered. I used to, he said, his voice bittersweet. Before medical school, before everything got loud. I stopped because I thought I had to. But when you told me you stopped painting because life made it too hard, it felt too familiar. Lily looked up at him slowly. He held her gaze. I brought you here because I wanted you to see that I am not the impossible person you think I am. I have flaws. I have fears. I have a past I do not talk about often. I am still learning how to balance who I am with who the world wants me to be. He stepped closer, speaking gently. And when I am with you, I feel understood. I feel real. You do not. Get intimidated by my successes. You talk to me like a person, not a title. You look at me like I matter for the right reasons. Lily felt something warm break inside her, a quiet ache unraveling into softness. Ethan, she whispered, her voice trembling. I am scared to believe that someone like you could actually want someone like me. Ethan reached out, taking her hands with a tenderness that steadied her heartbeat. Then let me make it clear, he said softly but firmly. I want you, not a version of you. You. The words wrapped around her like an anchor. And Lily, he added, his voice softer now. You are not small. You are not less. You are the bravest person I know. Her breath caught as tears filled her eyes. Ethan lifted one hand to gently wipe them away. I am here, he whispered. I am choosing you. And I will keep choosing you, every single day. Something inside Lily finally gave way. She stepped forward, closing the space between them as she leaned into him, her forehead resting against his chest. He wrapped his arms around her with a quiet urgency, holding her as if this moment had been waiting for them both. The room fell silent except for their steady breaths. After a long, quiet pause, Ethan tilted her chin gently and looked into her eyes. Lily, he whispered, what do you want? She swallowed, her voice small but sure. I want you. I want this. A slow, relieved smile spread across his face. He pressed his forehead to hers, their breaths mingling as he whispered, then we are in this together. And in that quiet room filled with sketches and soft light, Lily finally believed it. This was not a mistake, not a fantasy, not something fragile waiting to break. It was real. It was earned. It was theirs.